You know, I feel like I'm playing Dark Souls 2 all over again, because I'm sitting here beating this dead horse of a topic. It's been talked about for ages, and every time a new From Software game is coming out, people start flocking in droves to this story as old as time itself. And I'm here to discuss why I disagree with that and talk a little bit about why I feel that way. Before we get into a bigger discussion though, I wanted to address something that I see often associated to an easy mode, and that is how that would make the game more accessible. And honestly, there's validity to that point. You see, in my line of work, accessibility means treating everyone the same and giving them equal opportunities, no matter their ability or circumstances. And I understand people that support this argument, and I agree with the sentiment, I really do. But the mere option of toggleable difficulty isn't the same as just changing a texture or color of an asset.
What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
It will fundamentally change the way said game is designed and built in the first place. And I honestly believe that it distracts from real and important accessibility solutions that From Software has not yet implemented into their games. Lately, companies like Naughty Dog and Ubisoft have made quite some worthy of praise progress in this area. And the future looks very, very bright if more and more companies invest in building engines that are capable of integrating all of these things. But still, these beautiful things called video games are still made by people, real-life humans that have their desires, inspirations, and limitations. And sometimes, just sometimes, people want to create stuff for the ones they love, or even selfishly, but understandably, for themselves. And this is where I believe From Software games fit in. It always felt to me like Hidetaka Miyazaki, the father of the Souls series Bloodborne and Sekiro, created these games mostly for himself. Just look back at Demon Souls. That weird 09 game that was able to capture a following like no other. And Dark Souls, its successor, caught the world by storm, paving the way for a new genre to be born. These games were unarguably very different from the rest of the pack back then. Dark fantasy worlds filled with secrets, sparse storytelling, weird enemies, different combat. It always let off a pet project kind of vibe, like this was Miyazaki's fevered dream. And it turns a lot of things that we take for granted in video games and flips all of it upside down. And hey, I guess people really enjoyed it. Of course, Bandai Namco didn't resist in attaching the exaggerated "prepare to die" marketing strategy that, let's be honest, worked. But From Software and Miyazaki's plan was not to make a difficult game for the sake of being difficult. We, the players, weren't used to the gameplay, the storytelling, the exploration. It was all new and different. We all had to learn. It's no surprise to me that a friend of mine back then who had played Demon Souls was an absolute beast at Dark Souls close to release. He had adjusted movement patterns, fighting patterns, and was just that a little bit better prepared to tackle the game's challenges. And that's my point. The game has a reputation for being hard because it is so far detached from what the common AAA video game is. The combat is super different, the storytelling is sparse and encourages the player to seek out information instead of it just being spoon-fed to them. The graphics are not the best in the business because they want to focus more on art direction and world building and how it connects with their soundtrack. It all comes down to they want to make a game that is different. And that's amazing! I wouldn't tell a painter what to paint, or a composer what to compose. If I don't understand the painting, I'm not gonna ask the painter to adjust it to my liking or my understanding. I can choose not to engage with the art. But Locust, doesn't that mean that if people don't like the game, won't buy it, thus making it not successful? Well, sure, there's that risk. If you make your game and it's harder to approach by a vast audience, then it could translate into lower sales. But I guess that ain't stopping them. But let's entertain the thought, and what if Soulsborne games had an easy mode? How would it be implemented? First thing that comes to mind is invasions and PvP. We can't let experienced players invade easy mode players, but at what point does that stop experienced players of creating an easy mode build to grief and be toxic to others? So PvP, covenants, and all that core experience of the games is now gone. We have to cut it. And I know you can always play offline, but you would lose helpful and sometimes trolly soapstone messages. You would lose co-op opportunities on a TOF area, you would lose bloodstains helping you figure out what might have killed others, you get the point. So, what's next? Well, exploration and storytelling are challenging because they're very different, so I guess now easy mode would have to have some sort of quest tracker, maybe even a map full of markers with every activity that is left for you to do. That would be the most likely solution, but you can already see how different the game is already. What about combat balancing and enemies and all that jazz? Well, I guess we could gimp every single enemy and boss in the game so that they do barely any damage, but then it already starts to break what a few things symbolize in the game. Firelink Shrine is where you first start your adventure in Lordran. It's your safe spot. It's where you go to run away from all the dangers that lie outside. Its music is comforting. It transmits peace and safety with underlying tones of sadness and despair that make you feel the dread of ever stepping foot outside. Without the harshness of Lordran, Firelink loses its charm and significance. All of this and many other aspects of the games were carefully crafted by Miyazaki and his team to engage the player in a way that they envisioned. It's their work of art, it's their vision. If they don't want to include difficulty options, maps, quest markers, just let them. That's clearly not what they want to do. I remember when Sekiro was releasing, Miyazaki said this in an interview. We don't want to include difficulty selection because we want to bring everyone to the same level of discussion and the same level of enjoyment. We want everyone to first face that challenge and to overcome it in some way that suits them as a player. We want everyone to feel that sense of accomplishment. We want everyone to feel elated and to join that discussion on the same level. We feel if there's different difficulties, that's going to segment and fragment the user base. People will have different experiences based on that different difficulty level. This is something we take to heart when we design games. It's been the same way for previous titles, and it's very much the same with Sekiro. And guess what? Elden Ring will not have an easy mode or difficulty selector. That's great. That lets me know that Miyazaki and his team are making a game that they want to make. And besides that, Elden Ring will have so many options to fine-tune the experience to everyone's liking. With all that said, I genuinely hope that From Software has put in some work on a few other accessibility options for Elden Ring, so that more and more people can play their intended experience. I hope I was able to offer a good explanation, and if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing it with your friends and communities. If you agree with me, leave the video a like, and if you disagree, let me know why in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!